Hi there. It's really fabulous to be back here with so many wonderful customers, familiar faces, new faces, and I really am inspired by what David just did, because the same way I'm inspired by the fact that you guys, our customers, are making magic every day. We're focused on the method. We're trying to bring you great technology with which you can build magical solutions. So I'm excited to share highlights of some new features of InterSystems Iris between now and lunch. How many folks are running on InterSystems Iris or Iris for Health now? Full house, fabulous. If you're not, if you're still running on Cache, we've made it really easy to move up and let us know if there's anything we can do to help you. Iris is a unified platform, and its services are pre-integrated. They're built together. It's all a common framework. It's got common governance, common management, and that's really why it fits so well, this enterprise data fabric pattern. It's also what makes it fast. We keep the architecture really simple, and we eliminate unnecessary data duplication. Now, we've continued to evolve the high-performance multi-model database that many of you are familiar with from Cache, as well as the interoperability that you know from Ensemble. We've added a lot of new facilities, including interoperability with FHIR, integrated ML, and a ton of analytics facilities. We've released independent modules that go along with Iris, like the InterSystems Cloud module, ICM, the InterSystems API Manager, IAM, the System Alerting and Monitoring module, SAM, the et cetera, et cetera. We've also introduced adaptive analytics and new development environments like VS Code Object Script. Of course, we've made everything work really well in the cloud. In containers, under Kubernetes, just while keeping incredible performance. So this is really why we're focused on providing a great smart data fabric with a remarkable range of capabilities just built in so that you can build magic solutions. This is a new and next talk. So in this amount of time, I can only show a couple of things, but pretty much everything that's new is already in 2023.1, which released at the beginning of April. And a lot of the things that we'll show that are next, you can already use in the 2023.2 preview, which we expect to become GA in July. You can see at the highlights of each release that each of these feature releases has a lot of new capabilities. It ranges from bulk FHIR to time series and integrated ML. You'll see a couple of these today, but in sessions and the tech exchange and demos and drinks last night, there's topics about all of them here at Global Summit. Now, along with these feature releases, we also produce maintenance releases. Don't talk about them that much, but I know from talking to many customers that you're running mission-critical applications, and you depend upon us to have high-quality software built on time. So this year, we changed our release cadence to focus on getting maintenance releases like clockwork. I'm happy to say that we've done 5 so far this year. 4 of them have been exactly on time, and one day late, but we'll do better. So I'd love to hear from any and all of you about this release cadence, how we're doing, what we can do better to serve you. Across all these releases, we fit them really and talk about focus on these 5 pillars you see. And we work on these really passionately every release. So release after release after release, that we can deliver continuous innovation. The area at the far left here, speed, scale, and security, is sort of an of course. As Terry said yesterday, We just enjoy making things fast, and our customers count on it. The area at the far right, interoperability. A lot of people say that's our middle name, but it's also what InterSystems is about. It's about the name of connecting between systems, and it's one of the I's in Iris. So I'm not going to talk too much about either of those this morning. I'm going to be showing you a couple examples from analytics, cloud, and developer experience. And you might recall from last year, I'm a bit of an electric vehicle nut. Last year, I talked about Formula E, race cars, electric race cars. This year, I'll use analogies from production vehicles. How many folks have an electric vehicle? Yeah, it's really getting, it's now about 8% of new cars in the US, and it'll probably double in the next 2 years. There's about 40 models on the market. I'm super excited about that, because these, unlike Formula E, I can drive to the grocery store. Now, electric cars are remarkable technology. It's a ton of innovation, like 14,000 patents last year, but it's not just a new method of propulsion. It's really a new way of looking at cars, a new way of designing cars, and sort of a reinvention of what a car is. Changes go quite deep, but they do so following the core values really of each brand. So the car on the left is a Porsche Taycan, which is, I think, the best performing and handling EV on the market. And that fits Porsche's brand. They're the first to bring out an 800-volt system, which is double what other electric cars have, straight from the Formula E track. The one on the right, similarly, is the Ford Mustang Mach-E, and Mustang is Ford's best-known brand. These vehicles are fast. They're also very safe, they're innovative, and they're fun to drive. So I think that's a great analogy for InterSystems Iris, don't you guys? Okay. Plus, this reinvention, while staying true to core values, is exactly what Terry was talking about yesterday morning. InterSystems Iris is a new way of looking at data management, new way to deliver data fabrics, but we're staying true to our core values as we come out with that for you guys. So I'm going to start with analytics. Analytics is really core to electric cars. It's built in at many levels. There's reporting in BI, the kind of things you see, showing the driver battery life or mileage or expected maintenance. There's also real-time analytics, very deeply embedded into the control systems. And it's capable of changing the performance and personality of the vehicle just by touching the screen. Not only that, there's machine learning. The autopilot we're all hoping for, but also lots of driver assist features are run by machine learning in these cars. And they're all sort of built in deeply to the car, all upgradable, so my Tesla improves over time as I get new software upgrades. Similarly, InterSystems Iris has lots of different analytic facilities built in. Iris BI is the one that has the most history and the one that I think the most of you are using as a result. It's distinguished by its ability to do real-time BI. The triggers in cubes in Iris BI are faster than anything else on the market. Similarly, our embedded PML engine is cited for extreme performance, low latency, and it's great for running like predictive analytic models at scale. Over just the last couple of years, we've added InterSystems reports and adaptive analytics, so you can provide scheduled, pre-designed reports. You can also do high-performance self-service BI. And on the lower right, we've added embedded Python, we've added integrated ML, so we can serve data science, data engineering, machine learning workloads using really familiar tools like SQL and Python. What all of these have in common is our philosophy of running really close to the data. We're doing analytics close to the data, we're doing machine learning close to the data. It's the best way to get high performance. It's the simplest, most robust architecture, and it provides the lowest cost of ownership. So this is working quite well. In the last year, we've come out with columnar storage. This means you can organize data under the hood either in rows, as you traditionally might do for transactional applications. You want to insert one row atomically. But you can also organize it as columns, as you might do if you're running analytic reports and you want to sum up 10 billion bank accounts into a single number. You can mix and match these, and it's been a huge win for customers in performance when they're using it on the right workloads. Way more in most cases than the 10x that we aimed for. You can also now create columnar indexes on row-oriented data. So the flexibility here is unsurpassed in the market. And this ability to add indices means you can get performance without reorganizing your data or thinking about the data organization. Columnar helps with all of the analytic workloads I just talked about. It makes them all faster. And to get a little bit deeper into this, let's bring up Carmen Logue.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, Carmen. So I know you've been very involved with all of these analytic options. Carmen maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure. I'm Carmen Logue, and I'm a product manager on the data platforms team, and I mostly am thinking about business intelligence and reporting and ways that our customers deliver insights to their customers.
Yeah, so Carmen is a great person if you want to know about Iris BI, adaptive analytics, InterSystems reports, and I know you've made a demo that shows how columnar works well with reports.
That's right.
Okay,
yeah.
Can we see it?
You want to take a look at it?
Sure.
I think you're going to be, it's a use case that really shows off the power of columnar, so I'm pretty excited to show it to you. And one of the things that we wanted to do was find a data set that actually has just a lot of data about vehicles.
Yeah, New York is well renowned for having lots and lots of cabs. How many data points are in this?
Yeah, so this is a data set with 1 billion rides, right? So 1 billion taxi rides, exactly. So you can see down there, we're looking at, we had actually a little over 800 million individual riders. So each of that billion set, 800 million riders were single passengers, which I guess, contrary to popular belief, tells you that at least 20% of New Yorkers do know how to share. So that's good news. And then up in the middle there, you can see we're looking at by passenger count, the average tip and average total.
So wait a second. How many cabs actually take 7, 8, 9 passengers?
I'm guessing that's either limos or clown cars. I'm not sure which. But looking at that, you see that big jump up there where it goes up, when we hit 7 and all of a sudden both the tip and the fare go up. It kind of made me wonder, is there a different sort of percentage that people pay when they're working with those bigger, or when they're doing those bigger rides, when you've got 7 or 8 people crammed into either a clown car or a limo? So I decided to make another report, and that's what we're going to run here, and this report is going to look at that tip ratio. So we're going to go get information about the fare, the average fare. We're going to look at the average tip, and then we're going to compare that as a tip ratio, okay? And this is all about the buildup here. So what you're seeing happen now is that InterSystems Iris behind the scenes is churning through that billion row data set, all right? So that's going to take a lot of time, because even though Iris is very fast, 1 billion rows that deep and that wide takes a little bit of brain power, right? So we're going to do that, and we chose this use case because it's going to show off columnar quite well. So, and actually you had this on your earlier slide where we can select columnar indices, and because I'm only looking at 3 columns of data in this report, we can put columnar indices on those, and this is a use case that will show columnar quite well.
So we're answering definitively whether clowns pay more in tip, whether they tip better than average New Yorkers?
So it would be good to know if clowns are better tippers, don't you think?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah. Then, when you're doing your driving, you can pick them up. So here's the result, and as you can see, we've got a number of passengers, we've got our average tip and average payment, and then we've got our average tip ratio over there on the far right, and you can see it's roughly about the same. So I guess clowns are equal tippers to New Yorkers.
It's more likely
you can
those
see
are...
up at the top, it's correlated as well. So you've got, the average total and the average tip, and those lines look pretty similar. So that answers that question. And we can now go, I think, and we're going to go to our management portal, and you can see there's, at the very bottom of the list there's 3 indices that have been created, but they're not yet selectable. So you've got your index on an amount, on a passenger count, and on tip. So what we're going to do is we're going to make those selectable in the portal, and then we're just going to run that same report. And this time, it'll make those columnar indices available for selection when it runs that report again.
Does anybody remember how long the previous report took?
Oh, I forgot to point that out.
70 seconds.
70 seconds, right. I put that actually in the report so you could see it when it came back. And so we're going to run that report one more time, and then you should look and see how long does it take this time.
Carmen.
A lot faster, right?
Wow.
5 seconds up there. So from 70 seconds to 5 seconds by turning on those columnar indices on those 3 columns that we cared about.
So if my math is right, that's about 35 times faster.
Isn't that
That's
cool?
really remarkable just by adding those 3 columnar indexes.
That's right. It's a great use case for columnar. Yeah.
You didn't have to change the report.
Didn't have to change the report.
Because
No.
the SQL optimizer takes care of using those indexes.
That's
right. Fabulous. Now, there's a session about this later this afternoon.
There is, yeah. Benjamin DeBow is going to be doing a session on columnar this afternoon, and he's going to be joined by one of our early access customers, Shift. So please come to that session if you want to learn more about columnar.
Thanks so much, Carmen.
Yeah.
So we've really surpassed our goal with respect to performance on columnar. Another thing that I'm extremely psyched about is foreign tables. Iris is very good at storing data, but there's situations where you just can't bring data in. It's either housed in a faraway external database or on a file system that you don't control. In these kind of situations, foreign tables lets you connect to the data where it lies, and then it looks to the application just like it's local. So we're basically enabling a key pattern for data fabrics, which is the ability to either collect or connect to data. To show us a little bit more about this, let's meet Jess Jowdy. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Jeff.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
That's great. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Jess Jowdy, and I manage our healthcare sales engineering team at InterSystems.
So Jess is a fabulous person to talk to about applying any InterSystems technology to healthcare, but you've prepared a data about foreign tables.
Yes, I'm going to have us take a closer look at foreign tables. And really the benefit, as you mentioned, about foreign tables is this concept of being able to work with data that doesn't lie naturally within your data store. So working with external data that might be operated or managed by other organizations or groups or departments. So if we take a look at my screen here, I'm going to do a really basic example. Carmen's more of a taxi ride person. I like Lyft. I like the convenience of Lyft, so we're going to look at Lyft data. And it's pretty similar to some of the information you may have seen in Carmen's data. Trip distance, cost of the trip. But if I scroll to the right here, and I'm going to move to the other side so you can see, there is one column in addition that's called the VIN. If you're not familiar with a VIN, it's a vehicle identification number, and it acts as a thumbprint to describe the details of your car, like how many doors it has, the fuel type, the engine type. This information that makes up a vehicle identification number is actually maintained in a government database. You can access that government database, but it's updated, it's managed by the government. And I can actually show you what that looks like. I've loaded it, or here it is in SQL Server. On the left, you can see all the different tables, different data elements that are actually maintained by the government to make up these vehicle identification numbers. One of those tables is here. So I have all of this lift information, right? I can see all the lift data, all these rides, and then I also have this thumbprint information. Can I be able to join this information and actually derive some insight off of it? And the answer is yes. So if I go back into Iris, I can just run a set of very simple commands to make this data accessible within the native Iris workflow. So I start off by making a foreign server. I can then create a foreign table off of that foreign server. And just like that, I can actually just do a select star on that table, and what you'll see is the same data I just showed you in SQL Server appearing directly within Iris as if it lives in Iris. We can go one step further, though. You know, it's one thing to be able to access the data, but now let's think about all the different insights that we can achieve when we unite that information together. So now I'm doing a join on data that's stored within Iris to data that lives outside of Iris. And right now, I'm actually just doing a basic query to get the average cost per ride based on the fuel type. And so you can see the average cost for electric, flexible fuel, and gasoline-based vehicles. And then you can see that average cost, and that happened very quickly right within Iris. And then we can go ahead and put a little pretty picture on it, make it into a report using InterSystems reports. But the moral of the story here, Jeff, is that the data doesn't necessarily need to live within Iris in order for you to work with it. And that gives a lot of flexibility, especially in the data fabric world, to be able to play data where it lies. In the healthcare space, this is really exciting because we can start uniting data within our EMRs with data that lives outside our EMRs to drive even more value off of the data that we have.
This is super cool.
It's very cool.
And it didn't look like you had to do anything special to the syntax. It just is standard SQL.
Standard SQL.
It's amazing. And I also like that you can tell that Uber drivers or Lyft drivers that drive electric cars make more money.
Yes, yep, absolutely.
So Foreign Tables has an active early access program, and you might have missed it in the demos and drinks last night, but stop by the Tech Exchange if you want to know more.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
All right, we've talked about analytics. I'm going to just shift to the cloud for a minute. And there's an analogy here also with cars. There's so many choices about how you can work with cars. You can buy them and own them, you can rent them, you can take an Uber or a Lyft like Jess likes to. And similarly, we've provided a range of choices for the cloud. Cloud licenses let you run InterSystems software in the cloud of your choice. With cloud managed services, we can run the InterSystems software tailored for whatever your application is in a shared responsibility model. So you're running your application along with our software. But cloud services are really autonomous microservices, if you will, that you can use and you don't even have to drive. Now, we've done these across the business. With cloud licenses, we now have over 600 customers running InterSystems Iris or HealthShare in the cloud of their choice. With cloud managed services, every customer is unique. Each application that you've built has its own special requirements for your management and ours, so customers are there working on managed solutions tailored to them. And the action, at least for me, is really in the right-hand side in these cloud services where we've come out with first a set of InterSystems Fire services, then Health Connect Cloud, which is actually our fastest growing cloud service. You saw Northwest London a little bit earlier. Guys, thank you. And then we, a year ago, unveiled our horizontal database services, Iris Cloud SQL and Iris Cloud Integrated ML. So I want to show you a little bit on both ends of this spectrum. Let's start with sorry. Remember this, we're certainly not done. We have a lot more services in mind, both vertical and horizontal. So I want to show you on the cloud license front how we can make it easy for you to run Iris in the cloud. And the architecture of InterSystems Iris is really well suited for the cloud. For example, ECP, the Enterprise Cache Protocol, lets you add new compute nodes quite easily. It builds consistency guarantees you need for transactions right into the protocol. And it's quite elegant, actually. And it's very well suited for the cloud where you can spin up new hardware. The other thing we're seeing people pick up very rapidly is Kubernetes. This is a container orchestrator that's incredibly popular. So IKO, the InterSystems Kubernetes operator, is what we provide for you to run in Kubernetes really easily. And to talk more about that, let's bring up Bob Kaszewski.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Bob. So, you are the father of IKO, or actually maybe the grand uncle of IKO, because Steve Lubars is here.
I was just going to say, Steve Lubars and Luca Revizola are
Yeah.
probably the parents.
Well,
we want to have parents.
We'll get into paternity issues later.
Yeah.
But maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit in your background.
Yeah, I'm Bob Kaszewski. I'm a product manager on the data platforms team. And I look after containers and platforms, Kubernetes, our system for alerting and monitoring, our API manager, all these operational administrative types of things.
Cool. So why don't you show us what's new with IKO?
Sure. I'm very excited for this new demo. Can we bring up the demo? So here I'm showing a new feature of IKO 3.5. And actually what I'm showing you here today is actually hot off the presses. It's a new feature that will be in IKO 3.6, a little tweak on it. And what you see up at the top is a load generator we've been using for a couple of years for performance testing. And it shows the real-time output of a tool that just generates queries against a database as fast as possible. And you see when I start it, it goes up to about 10,000 queries per second. Down at the bottom is a Grafana dashboard. Grafana is a very popular observability platform. And it shows all of the compute nodes running in the Iris cluster and the load on them. And what we're seeing with this new feature is when the load is high enough for long enough, what will happen is we will create a second compute node. And we'll just start to spin these up.
Yeah, there it goes.
Oh, there it goes. And you can see at the top, the queries per second just went right up to 20,000 queries per second because we have two nodes working. So why don't I raise the load against the system a little bit. This is a tool called Kubernetic. It's a UI tool for Kubernetes. And all I'm doing is adding more workers to the query pool so that it can spin up even faster.
So that load test facility is running also in Kubernetes.
Yes.
I think these are in Amazon EKS, their managed Kubernetes.
Exactly right. I'm running this whole thing on Amazon EKS. And in fact, you could see if you look over carefully on the right that it actually spun up a third node already. So why don't I tell you a little bit about what this is doing? So this YAML file, YAML is used in Kubernetes to describe everything that you happen. And this one that's is an Iris cluster. You describe a whole bunch of Iris instances that are part of your Iris application, and you describe them together, and then IKO is responsible for deploying those and making the system be what you'd like. So in the heart of this is the data section and the compute section. And in the compute section, what I'm excited to show off today is this new HPA section, Horizontal Pod Autoscaler. In the past, you used to have to say, oh, I need 3 compute nodes, and they would be on all the time, no matter what. Now what you could say is, hey, I want a minimum of 1, a maximum of 8. I want to keep the CPU utilization around 50%. That's what I'm saying in this one. You might choose different numbers, that's fine. You might choose a different metric to scale on. In fact, you could use a custom metric through our custom metrics API. So going back to our system, we see everything is kind of stabilized. At about 30,000 queries per second, we have 3 compute nodes running. So let's scale the load back down and make sure that the system scales in properly. So I just went back to Kubernetes and I reduced the load, and you see up at the top that the load now goes down to 0. And the Grafana dashboard, you'll see the load start to slowly come off of those systems as well. So when the system is slow enough for long enough, we'll scale in, we'll get rid of one of those compute nodes.
Now, can you use IKO for other things, for mirroring or?
Absolutely. Yeah, in this data section, you can describe how the data is stored. And that includes your data mirroring and your sharding, along with a number of other features. IKO makes it really easy for you to set up mirroring. You just say mirror equals true, and you're done. Sharding is very similar, right? If you had 2 shards and you wanted 5 shards, I'd change the number of shards to 5. I'd apply that against my Kubernetes cluster. And IKO would be responsible for spinning up the servers, creating the disks, attaching the disks, even rebalancing of your data. So now we come back to our little chart here, and we see that there's only 1 compute node running, and the load is 0, and we have demonstrated what I wanted to show you.
Very cool. So scaled up, scaled down now, I like this because I'm only paying for the little bit that I need.
Exactly so.
And you don't have to muck with config files or write any code, you just change those parameters.
That's exactly right.
No CPF.
No CPF, no going to one server and doing something and then getting the output of it and bringing it to a second server. And all of that is taken care of for you.
That's really easy. I'm excited about how easy we're going to make our customers' lives.
Yeah, I am too.
Yeah. So you have a session this afternoon?
Yes. It's on auto scaling. I'm doing it with Mark Belinsky at, I think, 3:30 today.
Excellent. So it's don't miss it if you want to know more.
All right.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much.
So I get a kick out of nodes spinning up and spinning down. My wife thinks that's a little zany, but it really matters if you're running a mission-critical application in the cloud. I want to show the other end of the spectrum, which is a new InterSystems Iris Cloud service. We haven't talked about this before. It's a brand new service adding on to SQL and integrated ML called the document service. And this is for JSON or complex documents that you really want to be in that format. So I'll give you a sneak preview, or actually, Rick will give you a little sneak preview.
Yeah.
Rick, why don't you give people a little bit about your background and what you've done before InterSystems.
Great, thanks, Jeff. My name is Rick Giudice. I'm a senior cloud engineer at InterSystems, and I've been with the company for just about 2 years now. We're going to jump in and start showing you a little bit about our document service. I have our cloud portal here, and in order, just going to show you how to create a new deployment, and showing it's very easy. We're going to select our cloud document service, as we've been busy building out some of these services over the past couple of years.
I see quite a number of services there. We've been really building up quite nicely.
And there's some other features that we'll choose. We can choose our deployment size. We can choose give it a password. We can select our cloud provider and region, as well as give it a name and create the deployment. Now, when we create the deployment, it takes about a minute to spin up, and it's operational and running. For the purpose of this demo, I've created one already. And one of the things I've done with this deployment that I've created is I preloaded some taxicab data in it, so we could use that. And the taxicab data that we're using is relational data. And one of the things I'm going to show about the Cloud Document Service is how you can use JSON documents and join those with the relational taxicab data. So the first thing we're going to do, we can look at our query tools, and we can see we have our relational taxi data here in the bottom grid. We're going to use our collection import to now select a JSON file that we want to import into our document service. So In this case, we're gonna use some JSON data that represents car inspections.
So do they actually inspect taxi cabs in New York?
We're gonna find out, Jeff. So we're gonna import this into a new collection, and we're gonna call that collection inspections. We'll go ahead and preview this document, and it shows us our JSON data for our inspections, and also is gonna show us that it's gonna import about 1,500 documents from this JSON file into our document database.
Yeah, it makes total sense that you'd need a document database for this. It's very long, rich. Every document is different because every car has different parameters.
Right, exactly. So let's go ahead and import this. And we'll jump back to our query tools. And now once we're on the query tools page, we'll notice another item on the left there for document collections. And if we go into that document collection, we can see that there's our inspections, that's where the inspections live. So in order to access the data from the inspections, we're going to use a standard SQL query. It's going to use this SQL function called JSON table. And what JSON table does is it allows us to take document data in JSON format and sort of map it to relational format so we can access it through SQL.
And that mapping's done automatically, right? You didn't say anything about what goes to what field.
Nope, we didn't do anything with that. We just specified the collection, and ran the query.
Well, it's easy.
The other thing that's really neat about the document service is being able to join together now this JSON data and this document data with relational data that you're familiar with. So we can do a join on the two tables, and we can execute that. Now we can see in one result set we have some information about the vehicles and the taxi cab rides, along with some inspection criteria and also the fuel type for those taxis. So we can look up to see what our pass rates are based on engine types by combining the two together. We can run this last query here. And now we can see the engine types here, fuel type, diesel, electric, gas, and hybrid, and the pass-fail rates for each of those.
So it looks to me like the pass rate for electric cars is much better than gas and much better than diesel.
Yeah, and it also shows that the cabs are actually inspected.
Well, at least the records say they are.
Yeah,
This is really cool, and it's all running in the cloud as a managed service.
that's right. Yep.
Excellent. So I know, Rick, you've been really instrumental in building this and other cloud services. I think Rick is somebody that you should grab in the Tech Exchange. There's other members of the cloud team here as well to talk to you, so thank you so much.
Yes, thanks, Jeff.
All right, we've talked about analytics, we've talked about the cloud. I'm going to shift gears, as it will, and talk about the developer experience. As you know, this is also deep in our DNA, and with electric cars, not only do I love driving them, and it's been proven that it's less stressful than a gasoline car, but the experience is really tailorable because of the analytic-driven drive-by-wire that I talked about. We can change the personality to what I like, what my wife likes, what my daughter likes, really at the touch of a screen. And similarly, with the developer experience for InterSystems Iris, we've built in a variety of things. Now, this includes all of the developer tools that we've done, such as VS Code Object Script and other VS Code plugins. It includes the multilingual facilities that Scott was talking about earlier, so you can work in Java, in Node, in any .NET language, or in Python. And of course, it includes embedded Python, which runs right in the same memory space as the database. And this has proven to be quite popular. I'm thrilled at how many customers have used it and the amazing things, the magic they've built using embedded Python. Now, the whole idea next is to make services that you can consume as individual services. And your IT shops are already doing this. Consuming and building applications using microservices is now really normal. But there's a problem with most microservices, especially when you get to scale with data-intensive applications. Every service wants its own copy of the data, and as a result, you end up with something that's brittle, often slow, and is moving a lot of data around, so that's expensive. We're able to do that in a safe, trusted, efficient manner. Safe and trusted because, as you know, a big part of our brand is making software for mission-critical applications and having unsurpassed support. And efficient because we're using the power of the Iris architecture even in this microservice style stuff in the cloud. So you can connect these services together to build cool things. So for example, let's imagine you wanted to do machine learning on medical data using FHIR. We have 3 FHIR services, one that converts, let's say, HL7v2 or CDAs into FHIR, a FHIR repository, and a FHIR SQL builder that doesn't move the data, it projects it into SQL format. We also have a cloud service that does integrated ML. So what if you could stitch these together really easily to make an end-to-end solution? And to give you an example of that, let's bring up Tom Dyer. Hey, Tom.
How are you?
Good, nice shirt.
Thanks.
So, Tom, I know you're all about machine learning and AI, and Tom's the great guy to grab if you want to know more about integrated ML. Why don't you give a little bit of background before InterSystems and what you do here?
Yeah, so I'm a product manager and work on machine learning, but before, and I've been in InterSystems for 4 years, but before that, I was a data scientist and data engineer, frankly, building pipelines like this, and bioinformatics, genome data, things like that. And it makes me really excited to see some new ways to build pipelines, and this is what we did, and I'm going to show you a little bit about it.
Good, so walk us through it. This is 4 InterSystems services and a thing called DBT.
Exactly. So the pipeline that we built starts, it's basically 3 sections, and you start with FHIR data in our repository, project it to SQL, but you're only projecting, and that means not copying, the data that you need for the pipeline that you're going to build. In our case, we needed all the lab results, we needed all the procedures, we needed allergy information, but then once you take that data, you have multiple tables, and for the machine learning, you need to have 1 table. You need to have 1 row per patient, and you start out with many rows for each patient. So DBT is a pipeline tool that helps you do all of these steps in the middle. I'll show you a little bit about what it looks like. So this is what the pipeline looks like in DBT. There's an icon for each step, and the light green are the sources. And if you click on anything, you can see the lineage. You can see what depends on what. And it's a really nice tool to kind of communicate with your team what's going on. When you dig in and look at any one of these steps, you can see a lot of information that's documented about what columns you're using. And in this case, you can see things about the medical codes and the values. And this is observations. Now, the code to actually run is SQL. So it's not doing something back in Python. You're grabbing the SQL data from Iris and processing it. And you have powerful group by and other kinds of templates and macros.
So this looks really familiar to SQL, similarly to integrated ML, but it has these macros so you can parameterize it.
Absolutely. And then I mentioned at the end, we're building a predictive model at the end of the pipeline. And we have this in-database AutoML called integrated ML. And we've put that into the pipeline, and it's automatically.
So it's automatically retraining the model and building it right from within these pipelines. That's cool.
Absolutely. So then, once you have that data, your predictions, you can, oops, hit wrong button. You can surface them in any kind of Power BI or BI tool of your choice. In this case, we hooked it up to an open source superset. And for each patient, you get the prediction. For this case, we use stroke. We also have a parameter in our pipeline, similar YAML file, like Bob showed, where you can just switch it to lung cancer, or you can switch it to any number of like 800 codes or diagnoses that you want. Rerun the pipeline, it builds a model specifically for that condition. It's really cool. It's all open source, and we're very excited to have people contribute to it and see how we did everything.
So this is already available to everybody in the audience, right? You've published this in GitHub.
Yep, it's in GitHub. It's been a collaboration with one of our long-term partners, Carrot Dev. Dimitri and I would love to have your pull requests to improve it.
And it looks like you can parameterize it and change it for different patients just really with a parameter.
Yep, it's really cool.
Excellent. So end-to-end, composing services together, combining it with the best open source tools. And by the way, we now support DBT. There's a open exchange integration for it, and it's the fastest growing data science tool. So it's quite cool. Thank you so much, Tom. And I think you had the session about this yesterday. So if you want to know more, drop by the Tech Exchange, or if you want to know more later, just watch the recordings. Thank you. So this idea that we can expose Iris and our technology in services that are easy to consume is where we're going. Not just with the thing that Tom showed you where a developer can do it, but with smart data services where we put this in the hands of business analysts and people that can compose applications. We call this our smart data services, and it is really a faster, less expensive, and more secure way of building these applications because under the hood, we're minimizing data movement. And we're making common metadata, common governance, common observability across all applications. This is our vision. This is not ready for customer use yet in terms of you guys building applications, but it's come along quite well. There's a session this afternoon about it if you want to know more. And we're using it ourselves as we build applications such as TotalView for asset management. And Jay from Harris talked about that this morning. You heard a little bit about how he's gotten benefit and Harris has gotten benefit from this application that takes data from a wide variety of sources, brings it into a single truth that is then consumed by lots and lots of different use cases and different people, all with a common governance across connect or collect, control and transformation of the data, persisting that data in TotalView for asset management. We provide a pre-built data model for asset management, and then a variety of use patterns. There's a session about this afternoon as well if you want to know more about TotalView for asset management. We've also used this same pattern of composition of services with our new supply chain application. And to talk more about that, let's talk to Ming Zhu. Hi, Ming.
Hey, Jeff.
So great to see you up, especially on the heels of some giants of supply chain.
Exactly.
Why don't you give us a little bit of your background in supply chain?
Sure. My name is Ming Zhou. I'm head of supply chain strategy at InterSystems. Before I joined InterSystems, I spent 15 plus years building supply chain softwares, delivering supply chain solutions to Fortune 500 companies.
Yeah, so I loved working with you because
you.
I've learned a ton about supply chain, and besides the fact that it's fun to work with you. So InterSystems Supply Chain Orchestrator was just released GA this past Friday.
That's correct.
I'm super excited about that, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So we just learned a lot of fascinating technologies, in the previous speeches, particularly those from InterSystems. So some of our audience might be wondering, what kind of car can you build with all these kind of cool components? So here today, I'm going to show you one example. And this car we are building is branded under InterSystems Supply Chain Orchestrator. Now, this is not a fancy race car or a car targeting specific groups. This is a car for everybody. Why? Because supply chain impacts all of us. Supply chain is not a vertical. Manufacturing, retail has supply chain, so does hospitals and governments. So that's why this is something really we built for everyone. So let's take a look what's under the hood of this car. So inside every one of these cars is a data platform powered by our very own smart data fabric architecture. And what's more unique about this is it can also understand and speak supply chain language. And we call these components InterSystems Iris for supply chain. So if you have a car with only InterSystems Iris for supply chain, that's just our base model. And just like any other cars, you can add options on top of it. So we can add different options based on what your supply chain use cases you're trying to solve on top, whether it's a track and trace, whether it's a forecasting or optimization services. You pick what you need. And these add-ons packages comes in the form of a cloud service.
This is exactly what Chris was talking about earlier when he said, don't reinvent the wheel, use the best algorithms available and compose them in.
That's exactly the idea, yes. So with that, Jeff, if okay with you, I would like to take our audience for a quick ride and see what this car can do for us.
Absolutely, let's see it.
Okay. So I'm going to use an actual supply chain use case. So this is about a medical device wholesale distributor who built an application, supply chain application, on top of InterSystems Supply Chain Orchestrator. And by leveraging the capabilities Iris get to offer, we heard a lot from Scott's presentation, from what Chris mentioned, integrations, interoperabilities, we were able to bring in supply chain data from all parts across their supply chain, from order management to their warehouse management data to their logistic application data. So we were able to bring them in with our technology with ease. And because we also provide a supply chain data model, comes with supply chain orchestrator, they were able to quickly normalize, harmonize the data, then they can gain the end-to-end supply chain visibility. Given the visibility, then really the fun starts from there. Once the data is in, right, normalized there, we can do a lot of fun like analytics work. And one of which is we allow people to configure their own KPIs using our analytics engines. So we don't ship something out of box, we let them configure. So they can use KPI to measure how good, how well they're doing with their business, or identify what kind of problems they may have in their supply chain. Like this one, the late orders, that orders was not shipped on time, right? So we actually captured one of these with the data. So after the disruption was captured on our data platform, we don't stop there. And we can run additional analytics on top of the data and to help people understand what does it mean for your business? What is the root cause? And what are the impacts? And we even take one step further, saying, knowing the impact, knowing what's causing it, what can we do about it to minimize the risk of your supply chain? So what we will do is we'll go over all different from perspective in your supply chain, from the customer side, from the supplier side, from internal logistics side, to really see what is the best way to really control the risk. And for each of the options that we provide, we'll also help you to understand what's the impact. What does it mean if you make this choice? So for example, the recommended option is option C here. So what we are saying is, because of all the other factors, we recommend to ship this order from a different distribution center and then expedite the shipping to your customer.
This is really, really neat. It makes it really easy for the user. You can see the options and just decide what you want to do right away.
Exactly, and then we help people understand the impact, right? So in this last option, for example, the actual business impact doesn't seem to be big, right? It will be on time to the customer. The extra overhead is minimum, but we also highlight a potential risk. So we may put the safety stock at the risk for that particular distribution center. So if you recall what Simon mentioned earlier in his presentation, he highlighted one of the future supply chain trend is what? Data through analytics to action. And that's how we're doing it. And that's also why Chris and UST team picked us to re-platform their application, to implement their solutions on top of our supply chain orchestrator solution. So Jeff, as you said earlier, this car was shipped last week. So now it's available in every dealer's showrooms and the parking lot. So please stop by, take one out for a test drive. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with it.
Thank you so much. This is really exciting because it's a key set of applications, and people will be able to find you in the Tech Exchange at a dedicated table, right?
That's correct.
Fabulous. Thanks, Ming.
Thank you.
So I'll wrap up with just a couple of observations. The first is that, as I said, we're focused on these key pillars, release after release after release. I haven't talked about bulk fire. I haven't talked about what's new in adaptive analytics or what's new in integrated ML. But if you want to be hands-on with any of our new software, we really encourage feedback from customers. We have a set of early access programs. Just click on the QR code, and we'll be delighted to work with you direct to development. The second observation is that our architecture, which is really, really well proven, is layered, clean, and simple. There's a core data model with globals that provides high performance and multi-model. There is a scale-out architecture using things like ECP. There's close to the data interoperability. There's close to the data analytics. And this same architecture is what we're building on. So all of the new things that you saw today, and much more, have been built in these layers. Columnar depends upon new data types and new operators deep in the kernel. A lot of the adapters and the pipeline stuff that Tom showed is built into our analytics. So we strive to keep the architecture clean and clear as we add new functions because of the principles of Iris about simplicity, interoperability, reliability. One of the nice things about InterSystems Iris is it's also its efficiency. So the electric car with the best mileage out there has got to be the Selectria. I've actually been able to drive one of these. I wouldn't necessarily take it on the highway, but you could. And it's now at 1,000 miles without a recharge, a little further than the grocery store. This is not just cool, it's also green. Electric vehicles are a key part of keeping our planet sustainable. And the benefit that the Iris architecture has had in running fast on a small footprint on-prem translates both into cost savings and also sustainability in the cloud. This is a chart showing the carbon footprint of InterSystems Iris and other data platforms on a log scale. We took the speed test open source benchmark and combined it with a carbon footprint estimator for AWS instances. And InterSystems Iris here is between 9 and 65 times less carbon footprint than our competitors. So you can run fast with Iris, you can run safe with Iris, and you can run green with Iris. I can't wait to see what you guys build, the kind of magic you create on our methods. It's a privilege and an honor to help create this fabulous product and to serve you as our customers. So please come share your stories about how you're using it. Ask us for anything you need, and teach us how to serve you even better. And we're looking forward to a journey ahead, and we really aspire to helping you go wherever you want. So thank you very much.